Good morning. This is Father Stephen Kelly from St. John's Church in Detroit. We're continuing our series of daily morning meditations where we generally look at one or another of the lessons that are assigned for morning or evening prayer, what is known as the daily office lectionary. And I thought today we would take a look at the lesson that's assigned from the book of Maccabees, actually the first book of Maccabees. And it's very interesting because Maccabees is one of the books that is in the section of the Bible known as the Deuterocanonical or apocryphal books. Now, as Episcopalians, we do accept these books as having authority, but not for the making of doctrine. What do we mean by that? Well, we kind of go halfway between the more Roman and Orthodox position, where these books are fully and completely part of the canon of Scripture, and that doctrine can be set by these particular scriptures. The Protestants, they took it out of the Bible. And it's kind of funny that you have a group of people who decided to have a Reformation and make the Bible the primary authority, and then one of the first things they do is remove parts of the Bible, which can be inconvenient in setting doctrine that may in fact contradict what the things they were trying to do away with in the Reformation. Go figure. As Anglicans, we've kind of gone halfway in between, kind of the Anglican fudge, as we might call it. And that is, we do recognize that it is validly a part of Scripture. However, they cannot be used alone by themselves for the setting of doctrine. So again, we've hopefully found a happy medium on this. Interestingly about this particular book is it is a very historical one, and it helps to lead us. This book is written somewhere around the year 100 BC, before Christ. So it is written between the Old Testament and the New Testament. And in fact, we have no original Hebrew versions of this. It is probably written during the time period in Greek. So what's going on historically? I'll give you the background. What's going on historically is that the Greeks, under Alexander the Great and his successors, have conquered the entire region. Now, we know that during Jesus' time, the Romans are in charge of that entire region, right? And when it comes to oppressors, the Romans are pretty good ones. I know that sounds kind of funny to think of. But once the Romans take over a region, one of the things they allowed you to do is basically do what you find comfortable in the practice of your religion and your economy, as long as you pay your taxes and you don't revolt against the Roman authority. Those two things were a given. Otherwise, you were free to practice your religion. So for the Jewish people to be occupied by the Romans, certainly not preferable, but it is preferable to being occupied by the Greeks. Under the Greek occupation, they tried to destroy all of the Jewish faith, and they did it with other countries as well. And they tried to wipe out the Jewish religion. They banned it. And of course, the people of God in that original covenant would have nothing to do with it. And so really, things were much harder under this Greek period of rule of the people of that region. So we're in chapter 1, and we're up to verse 54. And really, the first chapter kind of lays the story down of their occupation, their defeat, and then what is going to ultimately happen. 54. Now the 15th day of the month Chislew in the 145th year, and they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar, and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side, and burnt incense at the doors of their houses and in the streets. And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law which they found, they burnt them with fire. And whosoever was found with any book of the testament, or if any committed to the law, the king's commandment was that they should be put him to death. Thus they did by their authority unto the Israelites every month, as many as were found in the cities. Now the 25th day of the month they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of God. At which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women who had caused their children to be circumcised. And they hanged the infants about their necks, and rifled their houses, and slew them that had circumcised them. Howbeit many in Israel were fully resolved, and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. Wherefore they rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, that they might not profane the holy covenant. And then so they died. And there was a great wrath upon Israel. So obviously what we are setting up is the horror of the Greeks forcing their religion and doing so by banning the practice of the Jewish faith, which of course included the sign of the covenant, circumcision. So those who had their children circumcised were punished by having the children killed and the dead babies hanged upon the women's necks. I mean, we're talking about very inhumane treatment of people, not only the death, but the torture of those around them. Now, obviously, there's going to be a happy ending, and we'll get to the end of Maccabees. You read it. Unfortunately, in the lectionary, we jump around a lot and get highlights, but you're welcome to read the entire story from start to finish and know that the Maccabees are a group of people who have gone into revolt against the Greeks and ultimately restore the worship of the living God under the original covenant. So anyway, it's a good read, and I do encourage you to be faithful in reading that as a part of the scriptures. Today's Tuesday. We have 12:15 Holy Communion and 5 o'clock evening prayer. And same as yesterday, we'll have to see if we have evening prayer at home or from the church because of what we are going through, both in the cleaning of the church under Croft as well as the cleaning of the rectory from the flooding. And I thank you for your continued prayers. And I do hope you have a wonderful Tuesday. God bless you.